Hey guys, what's going on? It's that home theater dude. Got a brand new episode for you today. On the last video, I unboxed the 3700H. This is the brand new Denon 6700H. So now this one's kind of like Goldilocks. This one's too small, this one's too big. The 4700 is probably going to be just right for most of you guys. As a beginner, this is where I started pretty much. I started with the 6400 a few years ago because I figured it had everything all in one box. If you guys are probably in that boat, or if you guys want some more advanced type of configurations and setups, go ahead and stick around right after the intro. Alright guys, so this is the unboxing of the Denon 6700. I'm going to do this a la Binging with Babish style. If you guys haven't seen that, highly recommend checking it out. Very entertaining cooking show on YouTube. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get everything out of the box. We're going to lay it out and we're going to talk about what comes in the box itself. Good God! Alright guys, so we got everything out of the box. So what do you get? You get a quick start guide, has Read Me First on it, just like Alice in Wonderland, I guess, Eat Me. Over here we have the antennae, as they would be the Bluetooth Wi-Fi. We have the AM and the FM antennae, because antenna would be one, so antennae would be multiple. You learned something. So now we have the labels that are really cool, and also the warranty information. So some of these things can be not too good to be true price. So make sure you guys are buying from authorized dealers, otherwise they may be falling off the truck. I was having this conversation with a guy yesterday. He found a deal on a JVC, which I know for a fact that if the person were to sell it at that price, they would be losing money. And there's no way to be in business. So just be cautious whenever you guys are trying to save some money. Highly recommend that you guys go through an authorized dealer, and then that way you get peace of mind if anything ever happens. Your stand assembly, as it would be called. Here's your microphone for Odyssey. So this has Odyssey 32 XT. Obviously you're gonna have batteries for your remote. You have your remote here. This remote is completely different than the 3700. So let's go ahead and get a zoom in on that. If it's shaking, I had coffee, so. So we have this remote, and then we have the unboxing of the 3700 remote. So you guys can see there's a little bit of a difference in just the overall design and layout. Obviously you get more features with this one. You don't need as many features with this one, so probably just smaller remote. Power cord, I said it wasn't important in the last video, but some of you guys did dad jokes. Of course you need a power cord. And then that's it. So let's go ahead and jump into the actual unboxing with this thing. Dang, check that out. This thing is massive. Whenever I was taking it out of the box, I was like, ugh, ugh. It's heavy, guys, so just be warned. So just looking at the top of this, I'm seeing a completely different transformer than in the other one, the 3700. Let's go ahead and look at that one. It looks beefier for sure. And then you have a massive amount of heat sinks here. I'm guessing that's what adds to the weight of this thing. And then you have your HDMI board back here, and then your processing right in the middle. So yeah, I think that basically covers it here. So what's different from this one and the 3700, right? So that's probably a question you guys are gonna be asking. So right out of the box, this thing has 11 channels of just ready to go right out of the box. It has processing up to 13 channels. This has 9 channels right out of the box, processing up to 11 channels. So there's differences baked in that way. Another thing that I've noticed is obviously higher power ratings on this one. This one is 105, this one is 140 watts a channel. So, and that's kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing because the way they rate these power ratings, it's just 2 channels driven. Obviously you buy this for home theater, so you would expect it to be for a home theater type of environment, but not so much yet. But they're basically saying that they're getting better at their power ratings. Almost no company besides NAD that I know actually gives you exactly what each channel is doing at one time, but they say that at 5 channels, maybe even up to 7 channels, that they have 70% of that on the box power going to those 5 or 7 channels. kind of hazy on that. But let's go ahead and look at the front. So in the front, you still get that nice updated shiny look to it. Obviously, you're going to have your selection knob over here, volume knob over here, and then I kind of made a mistake on this one. I don't have much experience with the 3000 series, 3500, 3600, 3700, whatever it may be. This one doesn't come with the flip down. This one does. So that's what I was talking about. Okay. Anyways, so this one comes with a flip down, right? So in that flip down, you're going to have the more convenient things that you're used to, well, that I'm used to. You're going to have your quick buttons over here to go to sources and zones. You have your selector knob here to switch through the menu. So if you lose your remote or you just can't find it, you can use this in a pinch. Obviously, you're going to have your different selector modes down here. Odyssey setup, headphone out for headphone amp usage. And then also another thing that's really cool with this one is that you can actually use this as a to transmit Bluetooth. So if you don't want to disturb your family, you're playing games late at night, and you still want to, game, you can put on headphones, it'll Bluetooth cast to your headphones, you could still play and there's no issue with that. Also at the same time, you can have this going, and then if someone, wants it louder, then they can use the headphones themselves. I think on the website, they basically said it's for the hearing impaired. But another cool thing that this one has that this one doesn't have is an HDMI on the front. That's invaluable, especially if this thing's heavy and you're probably going to be mounting it in an entertainment stand or maybe even a rack. So it's really, really cool to have that HDMI on the front. Otherwise, you got to pull the rack out, plop in a new HDMI. It's kind of a pain. So I like that, having that HDMI on the front. So that basically covers that. Okay, so let's go ahead and start talking about the back. Over here, we're going to have our Bluetooth antenna as well as Wi-Fi. We have another one over on the other side. And then up top, we're going to have network as well as 6 of the HDMI HDCP 2.3 ends. These things have little, assignable stuff on the back of them. You don't necessarily have to plug in your game for game or your Blu-ray to Blu-ray. Apparently, these things have smart features in them so that whenever you connect, say like your 4K Blu-ray player, it'll understand that. Apple TV, it'll understand that, and it'll display it on the front display too. So that's really cool. Okay, so the most important thing probably on here is going to be the 8K inputs right up here up top. We have 8K in, we have an 8K out, as well as an 8K out. It has dual outs, and then this one has eARC, so that's why it's not really hashed. As I discussed in the last video, anything in the hash on the back of these things is going to be an out. So that'll help you whenever you're setting this thing up. If you've never seen one before, or even just looking at this, it gives you anxiety. Don't worry, anything with a dot is going to be an out. Anything that's not in a dot, it's going to be an in. So this one's kind of an in and an out because it uses your enhanced audio return channel from your TV. So it's kind of both. But obviously this is going to go to your TV. Your TV is going to control what goes on in the receiver. Based on that connection, there's no two connections. I don't know if that confused anyone, but I'm just trying to help you guys out. Over here, you're gonna have a 4K zone. So obviously if you wanna be watching, football or something on the patio, or maybe some golf in the next room, or whatever it may be, you can use this. Say if it was connected to your game. So if you're playing a game or something, you can play that out in the patio if you wanted to. And there you go. So you have different zones as well. Over here is probably the biggest thing that you guys will be paying attention to. I'm going to talk about this in detail in a minute, but this has individual assignable turn on your amp, turn off your amp type of configuration. So if you guys want to buy this as an all-in-one unit, it's going to work in that regard. So if you want to use your full 11 channels, you're able to do that, not these, so don't think about that. So you're going to be able to use your full 11 channels right out of the box. But if you want to expand upon that, you would use, let's see here, we have the front wides. You would use these right here. You would put RCAs here, unbalanced connections. You would go out to an external amplifier. Your external amplifier would then have some speaker terminals that would go to your speakers. So this thing has the processing power, has the horsepower to do 13 channels, 13.2, which the 0.2 are the subs right here. So where I was going with that is that you can use all of those connections straight up on here. So you can actually have all your speakers connected to the back, or you can have no speakers connected to the back. So probably this is a more advanced feature that that doesn't really apply to more of the beginners, but more of the advanced folks that if you're not just buying this as your first AVR, you know what it is and you want to buy it for this specific purpose. You're basically freeing up the internal amplifiers on there, which isn't going to necessarily cloud your signal path. And that way, whenever you use, you're going to connect every single one of these, and it gets expensive with the amps that you have to buy, but it's going to sound better. So it matters if it all works at the same time or if it sounds better. It may vary up to you. You may be down here at first and then you're like, well, maybe I want it to sound better later on. That's why you have that ability baked in there. You can turn off the internal amplifiers on the menu setting so that you only use these and then it gives you a better sound. So that's one thing I wanted to clear up. Over here, we have the more tried and true legacy type of configurations, your old DVD player, your dusty old Blu-ray player, your CD player, your record player, different things like that nature. And then we have your phono in as well as your signal to ground. You have to connect this. These are just a pair whenever you're connecting it anyway. And then we have triggers over here, so if you want something else to turn on when this thing turns on, probably one of these amps that you guys are talking about over here, then you would connect that to that. It's a mono oral cable, so it kind of looks like an auxiliary cord for, you know, like playing MP3s back in the day, but there's only one little ring on it, so that's a mono oral cable. So you connect that there, and then just Google it, just look it up on Amazon. It's easy. Remote control ins and outs, so if this thing is going to be in a rack or if it's going to be out of line of sight, you can basically still use this thing. It'll basically turn your sensor on the front into a remote location with a little dongle, and then you basically fire your remote at that dongle. The wire connects back here. You still have full access of your remote. Or if you don't even want to do any of that, download the Denon app, and then you can still control it that way. Just make sure that the Denon is on the same network as your cell phone or your device, your tablet. RS-232 support down here, so if you want to tap this into your whole home automation, you have that. Digital ins, you have the cable satellite, DVD, as well as optical, and those are assignable as well. So if you want them to go to, let's see, you have your TV going, and then you want your TV to return it here. It doesn't have eARC, and then say like if you have like an older TV, you could still use the audio, you can still return the audio via that little configuration right there. And then down here, these things are a little more premium than the 3700. You can just feel them. They feel a little sturdier and they have a little cooler design than the 3700 too. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So even though there's 13 of these little posts on the back, right? Or 13 pairs, I guess it'd be 26 total. Right out of the box performance. Let's see, you want to do all of these, and then you want to use these as well. They're front wides. You don't necessarily care about your height twos. You wouldn't use that. Okay, so I think I've talked about everything on the back here. So now what I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and do some talking about why I think this model is better than the previous models in the past, as well as the previous models in the lineup this year. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that right now. Well, all right, guys, let's go ahead and talk about the major differences for 2020. So we have the 3700, the 700 series is going to be the 2020 version. The 4500, the 500 series is going to be, 2 years back. And then the 600 series was obviously last year's. So this one we have the 3700. It's 9 channels right out of the box. It has 11 channels processing power, IMAX enhanced, and then the 8K features, right? This one, the 4700, which imagine it being right here. I haven't unboxed it yet. That one has 9 channels right out of the box, 11 channels processing power, a little bit more watts per channel, and then you have all the 8K features as well. So in addition, it also has, in addition to the IMAX enhanced, it has Auro 3D. Auro 3D is probably one of my favorite codecs to listen to anything on because it upconverts, even if you have something that's a mono. So if you're sitting there listening to the Beatles on a mono channel, it'll upconvert it to all the speakers that you have around you, which is really cool. And this one is the Denon 6700, so it has 11 channels right out of the box, so 2 more than these, and then it has 13 channels of processing power. So if you want to use an amplifier with it, you can get the full potential out of this one and 13.2 channels. So you'll have 13 channels and then 2 subwoofers if you want them. And then at the same time, you have the 8K abilities, you have the individually addressable amplifiers. So I'm not sure if these have it. It's kind of confusing, so I want to go ahead and unbox all of them and get them set up so I know for a fact, because everything I read, it wasn't necessarily clear if these things have it or not. I know for a fact this one has the ability to turn on and turn off those preamps, actually, well, turn on and turn off the amplifiers in this actual unit, so you get a cleaner signal transmission whenever it goes out through these little ports right here to your external amplifiers. Will it be perfect? I don't know. Since these are unbalanced connections, it's not a dedicated preamp processor type of configuration, so it's to be decided. I'm guessing it's going to be better than it would be just right out of the box, but we'll find out. So additionally, like I was talking about, this one has the IMAX Enhanced, the Auro 3D, and the DTSX Pro. So now, the big limitation on the previous versions, which is why they couldn't even announce that these things had DTSX Pro in the first place, is that DTSX, which is the same, well, here's the thing. IMAX Enhanced is in the DTSX type of realm. It's in the same type of envelope. So with DTSX, it was only maxed out at 11 channels. So 11.2 maxed. It couldn't do any more. Atmos can do more because it was ahead of the time back then. It was able to, you know, decode the Atmos signal and spit it out to more than 11 channels. And then now the big bottleneck was, all right, well, we want to do 13 channels here. We don't just want to do Atmos, we want to push it a little more and do the DTSX Pro. So now Atmos and DTSX Pro, they're different setups. So your speaker configuration, your setup in your room is going to be different between the two. Now, it's not saying that you can't use your DTSX Pro or your DTSX stuff on your Atmos configuration and vice versa. It'll still sound roughly around the same type of, it'll still sound good, is what I'm trying to say. This one is based, the Atmos is based more along the rectangle shape of a room, and then the DTSX Pro is more along the spherical, well, I guess hemispherical type of shape of a room. So no one has a hemispherical shaped room, so I don't understand why that's the biggest deal with these things. More or less, more people are gonna have a rectangle type of shaped room, so either ways, you're gonna be fine on that front. Some more tea that I want to spill about this DTSX Pro thing. It's for 30 speakers. So if you have only 13 speakers, what's the big fuss about? You know, it doesn't make any sense. You're not untapping the full potential of the DTSX Pro. You're kind of just dipping your toe into it, but still at the same point, you'll be able to get the higher type of resolution with your speakers. All right, so let's go ahead and say this. So if you have speakers, right? If you have more speakers, you would think that you would get a higher resolution. Same thing if you have pixels on a 1080p display, and then you go up to a 4K or 8K display, pixel density is a lot denser over here, so you'll be able to experience a much better, a much cleaner, more vibrant type of overall experience. Resolution is what I'm talking about. So now going from the old tried and true 7.1 system to maybe even a 30.2 system, if you think about, if you have speakers each individually addressable, you don't have to blast them to the nines. Like, it's not like these things are gonna be cranked up 100% all the time. But if you have more speakers in a space, it'll make that 3D object stuff, it'll make it more realistic because you have the more hands to do the easier lifting to make that more realistic for you. So that's basically where I want to go with that. I kind of don't necessarily believe in the full DTSX Pro thing unless you're going to go on a full tangent and go with the nasty amount of speakers, but at the same time, the same argument can be made for Atmos. So I don't have my system set up for DTSX Pro, and I have mine set up for Atmos, but at the same time, it's just a signal. Your processor decodes it. These things aren't coded for specific speakers anymore. It's not how it happens. A signal goes in to this unit, it decodes it, and then this unit actually figures out how many speakers you have available and what configuration that they are available, and then in the positions that they are available, and then it spits out, it kind of threads the object around from all of those different things to make it seem like you have a moving type of object throughout the room. So it makes the surround sound a lot more realistic. Hope that makes sense. A lot of people still think that, well, there's no content out there anymore. I mean, I can't sit there and watch, Casablanca and then experience it in my Atmos. Not true, because a lot of these things have virtual up mixers in them anyway. DTSX has been doing it with Neural X for a long time, and then Atmos and Auro 3D, they can basically get that stuff covered. It's all these virtualizations that that help get a better overall experience. So if you have an old DVD that you have that they don't necessarily make in Blu-ray or 4K, or even a VCR, you could still appreciate it with the new type of setup here. So let's go off on even more of a tangent. One, the Blu-ray players aren't even out yet, or the sources aren't even out yet to display 8K. So unless you're rolling around with a Dragon, Red Dragon camera, or like, what's that other one? The Blackmagic Pro that does like 6K and 8K, or even like the Z-Cam that does 6K and 8K, and you plug it directly into this thing, you're probably not tapping the full potential of that stuff anyway. So there's no sources out for it yet. There's no cables that are certified to be out for 8K yet, so that's another thing. And then we're just getting into the second year of 8K TVs. There are no 8K native projectors yet, and that's all I want to say about that. So if you guys want to buy something that will probably be good in the next year, because Japan's jumping on the bandwagon, they're really ramping up for 8K. The Olympics that were supposed to be displayed this year during the summer, they were going to be filmed in 8K and broadcasted in that format as well, but obviously got postponed. So that's something to think about, and that's all I want to say. I think that there are a lot of great features in this thing, so guys, don't think I'm crapping on the 6700. The 6000 series of Denons holds a great spot in my heart, because I started out with this thing thinking that, you know, this was going to be the one and done type of configuration, which is probably what most of you guys are thinking in the first place. That's kind of like a starter's mentality, because let's face it, once you get something, it's a hobby. You're going to just want to improve it, improve it, improve it. You'll probably start going to external amplifiers, and then you'll probably just dump this all together and go to straight up preamp processors. So there's a progression, there's a stage of things. So that's basically what it is. This thing is a beefy little unit. I really liked my 6300, and I can't wait to go ahead and get this thing hooked up. But besides that, I think that covers all the major features here. I talked about the new 8K improvements with the 3700. Obviously you're getting the 8K HDMI boards here, one 8K input, two 8K outputs. And then with that, you have the ability of doing your variable refresh rate, which helps out with gaming. Obviously, they're going to ramp up and ramp down the refresh rate to give you better gaming experience, reduce your lag and your jutter and things like that. You have your auto low latency mode, which will flip on whenever you need it to if you turn on your if you turn it on to one of those devices as well. You have the, what's that thing called? The quick media switching as well, which basically makes the downtime very minimal with these things whenever you're switching sources, like going from an Apple TV to your game, or your Blu-ray player to your DVR or whatever it is. It reduces that black screen effect for a lot shorter time, which I think is really cool. Last thing is that quick frame transport, which I still don't understand what it is. It kind of just seems like it's the exact same thing as the variable refresh rate, but if you look at the little definitions, it's kind of confusing, but I'm sure that there is a very specific reason to have it in there. I haven't seen it, and I'll go ahead and test that. I'll let you guys know about it. But yeah, one more thing that I want to go ahead and go off on a tangent. This 5.1, 5.2 argument that's going out there right now, I think it's stupid. It doesn't make any sense. Look right here on the front of this thing. It says 11.2 channels, right? So that means that there's 11 channels that this thing has, 0.2 subwoofers. So ipso facto, that 5.1, 5.2 argument that's going around, because you can't call, if you have a setup of 5 speakers and then 2 subwoofers, you can't call it a 5.2 because there's only one dedicated LFE track. That makes no sense. So I'm gonna go ahead and come out and say it here. I think it's absolutely stupid, so whoever's doing it, you guys know what I think about it, and try and change my mind. Because on the same token, let's talk about this. Your 7.2.4, does that make any sense? Because there's no specific coding for Atmos channels anymore, so that means that there's no specific coding for your LFE, so calling it a 5.2 makes no sense. Calling it a 5.1, I guess, still makes sense. So calling it a 7.2.4, the .4 makes no sense because these aren't individually coded speakers. The 7, they're coded. So that's basically what I feel about that. If everyone does it, then no one does it. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. I think someone probably said it, like one of the talking heads that are probably more prominent on YouTube. I haven't done any investigation with it, but that's basically how I feel. I think the whole argument is a moot point, and I think we should move past it because you guys are firing back on people's videos now, trying to correct folk on what's right and what's wrong. Let it go. So one more thing that this is going to have, so you would think that if you bought the Denon 8500, right, which is 13 channels right out of the box, and then it has the processing for up to 15.2 channels. So if you think that you have that one, 8500, the 500 series is less than the 700 series. So you would think maybe I need to, throw this thing out and buy this one. Not necessarily true. So the 8500, since it's a flagship type of product, Denon has given their full backing with that one because they realize that people spent big bucks on them, and they're basically giving that update for the DTSX Pro in a few more months. So don't worry, you're going to get it, and it's just going to come in time. So all the features of the DTSX Pro are going to be coming with that one a little later on. Also the ability to turn on and off those amplifiers, if I'm not mistaken, but that could be something in the firmware or the hardware and not the actual software. So don't quote me on that. All I know for a fact is that the DTSX Pro is coming for the 8500. We'll address that update whenever it comes a little later on. But I think that's going to go ahead and conclude this video. I know it got long. I went off on several tangents. I gave my opinions on several things that have been bothering me, as well as my own thoughts of these things. I know this was supposed to be an unboxing video, but it kind of turned into a little bit more. So if you guys like these type of tangents, let me know. If you guys want me to cut it out, let me know. I'll probably just put it in a shorter video somehow, some way. All right, guys, make sure you like, favorite, share, and subscribe. Don't hesitate to hit that little subscribe button and the notifications bell. I'm looking at the analytics. I know that only 28% of you guys are actually in that notifications bell, and only 10% of you actually have the all notifications on there. All notifications help get all these videos out to you guys as soon as they come out. I know that I've been kind of taking some downtime during the whole quarantine type of thing this year, but now I'm right back at it, strong as ever. So really like you guys to see these videos, and that really helps out with that notifications set to all. Besides that, I got nothing else for you. It's been a long video. I gotta go rest. I gotta go finish my coffee. I've had probably too much coffee today, and I'll go ahead and catch you on the next one.